Welcome to Success Is Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Portman, serial entrepreneur, author, and podcast host. Whether success for you is more money, time with your family, a healthy, well-balanced life, or freedom, I'm interviewing guests and getting you the advice to make it happen. So join me as we uncomplicate the complicated, help you define success, and give you the strategies to make it happen. Hello, and thank you for joining me on the Success Is Podcast. Joining me today is Dick Grove. Dick is the CEO of Inc. Incorporated PR, specializing in media relations, pay-for-performance PR, financial and crisis communication, digital public relations, and integrated marketing solutions. Thank you for joining us today, Dick.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the first question, which is, what does success mean to you, Dick?
Well, success means, if I could be flip, it would be called survival after all these years. Success means actually building a legacy for yourself through a company, which I believe we've done and I've done with the help of a lot of people. It's serving a lot of different kinds of people over the years with the service, and it's being true to yourself at the end of that, both that period of time as well as each individual day. And by true to yourself, I mean being fair, honest, and something that wasn't always the case in the PR world that I came out of. And so that's the reason I started this firm, and I'd like to think that that's the successful conclusion of it, although I'd like to think it'll keep going for a while.
Absolutely. No, you spoke on something with the honesty component. And for some reason, is extending from sales and into business, so many people believe they have to tell these little white lies. And over time, those white lies kind of become bigger and bigger and bigger. And I have found that the people that I respect and get along with most in business are the most honest people up front. And those are the people that I enjoy doing business with. Why do you think it is that people have such a genuine problem just telling the truth?
Well, I don't think I'm not sure people have a problem telling the truth, but I do think that within my profession, it's been problematic that the general, even to many people on the journalistic side and other people consider PR kind of working on the dark side, that you're going to tell lies and spin things in order to cover somebody's butt that has done something bad or stupid or whatever. And that's very seldom the case. But nevertheless, what's happened is that it's gotten a terrible, terrible reputation. And much of it is because of our own problem within the profession itself. And I say that because one of the reasons when I say be honest and fair with people has to do with compensation. And
I get you.
I've fought against big fat retainers and hourly fees for a long time. And I used to say one of the most creative thing anybody does in the PR world is their timesheet every week. And meaning that you've got to pad the timesheet, and big PR firms are particularly bad at, but everything has to be billable. It's like a bad law firm. The more hours you bill, the more successful you are, having nothing to do with whether you've actually served the client and produced anything in the way of real good media, solid media coverage for the client. So that's really when I talk about being truthful and so forth. Interesting enough, I've seen lately that in a lot of TV shows and movies lately, I saw something just the other night that portrayed, it seems like PR people, particularly corporate PR people, are always portrayed as the bad guy or the schmuck. They're the ones that are trying to cover for somebody or lie. And I do get tired of that kind of interpretation of what I've done for 50 years. But so that's what I call being fair and being honest and being able to look at yourself in the mirror at night or in the morning and saying, okay, I'm being fair and honest with my clients. I'm being fair and honest with the media. So that's what it is. It's a little cornball, but it's true.
Absolutely. So, for those of us that don't have a really great understanding of what it is you do in the PR world, specifically in corporate PR, can you kind of describe for us what a typical why they would bring you in to consult or help them?
Well, and I'll say that because we're a little bit different. We're basically a publicity firm. We're not a corporate consulting firm. What we're brought in to do is to get coverage for clients, and we tend to do that. Mainly, our client base tend to be smaller startups, smaller firms that need to create positive buzz for themselves. And in today's world, in particular, they need to have credible content that can be distributed over their social media. That credible content comes from a third party, meaning the media, the normal traditional media, newspapers, television, podcasters, etc., that are going to be saying nice things about you, not because they've been paid to do it, but because you actually deserve it. And our job is to convince the media and podcasters and producers and directors of the media of the broadcast that our client has a viable, interesting, worthwhile story that they should dedicate some time to. And if they do, then that's when we actually charge the client for that. Most PR firms charge them whether they would get it or not, just for doing the effort, and that's not what we do. But but to answer your question, the most simple way is that what we do is we clients hire us in order to get good stories about them, positive stories done through the editorial side of the media in order to get them credible content that they can then use to distribute in today's world via social media, etc.
Great. How long have you guys been in business?
We've been in business over 25 years. I've been in the business for 50, but this particular firm I started 25 years ago, and we're still going strong.
So obviously, being in business 50 years in this industry, this was long before the internet and that.
Long, even
Yeah,
25 years was almost before the internet.
that's
So,
right. It's cutting it pretty close. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the industry changes that you've seen as it relates to PR, and do you have any predictions on what some of us need to focus on for the future?
well, sure. The biggest change has been in the media itself. The media has changed dramatically, obviously, not just over the 50 years, but certainly over the last even 10 to 25 years, it's changed dramatically. Uh, Everything used to be print, broadcast, newspapers, magazines. There wasn't an internet. And even once the internet started, um, you didn't have this proliferation of social media, which has changed the whole dynamic of public relations as well as everything else. Uh, One of the unfortunate parts of social media is that by simply stating something enough times and loud enough, it almost becomes factual.
Hmm.
The traditional media begins to cover it. And the more they cover it and the more they send it on, the more it has a life out there of its own. And the classic example of that, of course, is the big lie regarding the elections in 2020. Uh, so, but the greatest change I would say comes in the media itself. It's now far more, everything is digital. We work in a digital world. We pitch our stories digitally to the media. It used to be you'd pick up a phone, or years ago, you'd type out a press release and send it to somebody via snail mail. Uh, Now
Sure.
everything is done digitally, and that's the greatest difference. And you've got to adapt or you're going to die in this business. So,
Absolutely. One of the things I'm seeing is that content, the whole TikTok and all that, and the reels is becoming shorter and shorter. It seems like people have shorter attention spans than they ever have. Has that affected the way that you guys are doing business?
Oh, sure, but uh, I would like to say that people have gained a attention span. I think they've always had short extension spans. So, we built that a long time ago, where you've got a few seconds to grab the media's attention, and you've got to do it with a pithy pitch that's going to grab their attention. It's got to be newsworthy first of all, and that's one of the great problems that most clients and many people have. They think that they've got the greatest widget or story that's never been told, and simply picking up a phone or sending an email, the media is going to just be clamoring to cover that.
Right.
And it's not the case. You've got to have something that's newsworthy. You've got to be informative. You can't just sell. And that's one of the greatest problems in it. But I would say that social media has just changed it so dramatically uh, in terms of being able to get something across quickly and with facts and information that can be tested, and, as opposed to just being an opinion.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Um, yeah, so in what you described with helping somebody make something that's newsworthy, is a lot of what you're doing then specifically crafting a message, understanding what it is they're trying to convey, what's specific about their product or service, and how you can relate it to the audience?
Oh, absolutely. And what we do with a client right out of the box is we get to know them. We want to get to know them up close and personal. We want to know everything about them. We're not going to take a lot of time doing that, because if you're an hourly rate firm, you could take months and charge them for all of that. In our case, we like to be smart enough and dig deep enough and have the right kind of questions that we can get that information within a day or two. And from that, we'll develop what we call storylines, working with the client, that we feel are going to be informative to the client. And one of the things, and the reason I wrote the book I did, and the title of it, it's The Media Stupid, was that we're media centric, which is a little bit different from a PR firm. We actually we care as much about what the media wants as what the client wants. Because if we don't satisfy the media's needs, the client's needs are not ever going to be satisfied. So,
Absolutely.
bottom line of saying it, you got to deliver something the media cares about, and what they care about is what their audience cares about, and sometimes their boss cares about. And so you've got to be very aware of all of that, and you do that by digging deep into the client and finding out who they are, what's where the history of the client, the type of product they have. And it's not just what a client does, it may be how a client does it. It's not just a product or a widget they have or a
Hmm.
new software program. It may be something in the way that they run their company. It may be a human interest story behind that. All of that is possibly interesting to the media in order to get them to cover a story. And what you do is you train your client to be able to understand how to get their story across, even when the initial questions are something slightly different.
Great. So yes, you're doing a little bit of detective work there when you're interviewing with a client. Is that correct?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. You're trying to, I've had situations where we've spent 3 or 4 hours with a client and we're still trying to figure out something. And we could be walking out of the meeting and see a photograph on the wall and say to ourselves, oh my God, that's interesting.
That's it. Yeah.
Ask a question about it, and they say, "Oh yeah, well that's this and that and so forth." And go, there's your first story hook right there, man.
There it is.
So you never know. You really never know. But if you've been in this business long enough, you have a pretty good idea of what's going to interest the media, and and what's going to be newsworthy and what's not. And that usually isn't, and I'd say, in fact, 99% of the time, it's not puffery. It's not trying to say nice things about you. It's finding those things that actually are going to be interesting to the media's audiences.
So, in talking to you, I noticed you have a very strong belief and code of ethics on things that, I mean, yes, you talk about how you help the clients and that, but also lines that you won't cross. Do you believe that in the changes over the last 25 years in this business, 50 total, that that's really helped keep your arrow pointed in the right direction?
Well, I don't know if it's kept it in the right direction. It's kind of always been there. There have been times we've lost a couple of clients because of that. But I'd say, yeah, it's what keeps us being successful, because what we've developed is, with a reputation with the media itself over the years, that they know when a story is coming from us as a PR firm, that more than likely it's something they're going to use. It's not going to waste their time. You may not be surprised at the number of pitches that go out to the media that have absolutely nothing to do with what their audience is even involved in.
Oh, sure. It's just built for SEO content or some nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but besides that, I like to think we have fun. And one of the things I get kind of weak on is PR firms taking themselves way too seriously. I've told people before, we're not rocket science. We're not curing cancer. We're pitching stories about basically news and business stories to the media so that they'll run that story. You got to have a sense of humor. You've got to understand what you're doing, and you can't take yourself too seriously in the process. Now, every once in a while, you get a client that is involved in something that's very, very meaningful. Don't get me wrong, and
Sure.
and we've had quite a few of those over the years, and where you can actually feel like, wow, this is something. I'm not just selling toothpaste, or I'm not just pushing a cause.
Hmm.
I'm actually making some difference in people's lives with what this client is doing, and the fact that we're getting that publicity out there. And boy, that's a great feeling once in a while
Sure.
when that does happen.
Yeah. Do you
But
feel a
in
lot of
general,
pressure in those, feel a lot of pressure in those situations to do it right, though?
oh, absolutely,
Sure.
absolutely. And recently, I, we're involved right now. We're pitching a new client that's involved with the Ukrainian situation, and we're
Oh, wow.
anxious. We're waiting to hear, but we feel like we could do a lot for them in terms of getting that story out, to help them raise money for the Ukrainians military. And so, yeah, every once in a while you get those where you really get excited and say, we could accomplish something very special with this, and not just, like I said, sell toothpaste,
Yeah.
or one more app, or get one more 25-year-old to become a billionaire by the time we're done.
Yeah. You feel like you can make a difference in the world and those types of things. And those are,
It makes, and I've been around long enough that I've had quite a few of those, so I feel pretty good about it.
that's phenomenal. Well, Dick, I appreciate your time today. For our audience listening, how do they get in hold of you? How do they stay in touch with you? What do you got going on?
Well, the easiest way is, of course, to go to our website, and that's www.inkincpr.com, inkincpr.com. You can certainly reach me through dgrove@inkincpr.com. And you can, if you want to, you can go and either on our website or directly to Amazon and check out the book that I've written that was published at the beginning of this year, called It's the Media Stupid, PR Without the BS. And uh, any of those ways you can reach us, and we'd be love to talk to you if we think you've got a story that needs to be out there.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for listening to the Success Is podcast.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for watching today. Be sure to like and subscribe for more future episodes of Success Is Podcast. If you have any suggestions, please comment below. Look forward to seeing you next time.